What does it mean to reinvent yourself? Is that like a career change? Maybe relocating, choosing a new lifestyle or a wardrobe? Or is it something deeper? Well, in my life, I have discovered that reinvention, in fact, is a fairly complex process. It's highly social, and it can lead to the discovery of who you really are. In fact, it can bring you into a closer awareness of what you're worth, your value, your uniqueness in the world, and ultimately, why you're here. Mark Twain said that. The two most important days in our lives, the day we're born and the day we know why. So why? Why are you here? Well, I think that reinvention is a necessary function of life. It's a necessity. And you know, we remember the old proverb, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. Turns out that's really a pretty old idea. Most scholars credit Plato for its origin. And I believe it's true. And I have an addendum that I'd like to share with you. Let me begin by telling you about two people. My father was a Swedish immigrant who grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 1930s. Not exactly a family-friendly environment. By the time he was 17, he'd had enough. So he reinvented himself. He dropped out of high school. He joined the Illinois National Guard. During the war, he was inducted into the United States Army and stationed in Seattle. That's where he met my mother. My mom was the daughter of a sugar beet farmer in central Utah. When she was 17, her father was killed in an accident. She finished out high school, completed a couple of years of college rather unsuccessfully, and decided there's got to be something more for me. So she reinvented herself. She packed up what few belongings she had, and she moved to Seattle, where she met my father. And over the years, I watched these two people reinvent themselves repeatedly. And something very curious, every time they did, they got better. They discovered more who they really were, what they were really worth, and why they were there. I learned from them that life is like a river. And life's journey is most like whitewater rafting. Indeed. In fact, what they helped me realize, whether they knew it or not, was that reinvention, in all of that processing, in all that the river brings, is really a good thing. It is so much a part of being on the river. And I learned too from my parents, the best thing I can do is stay in the boat. Stay in the boat. Don't have to. You can jump out of the boat if you want. And in fact, this whole business of reinvention, something that I've been doing all my life and really didn't realize it. I didn't realize that this is what my parents had really invested in me, this ability to reinvent. I just thought I kept screwing up. See, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an entertainer. By the time I was 7 years old, I'd learned to play the accordion. I was at all the church assemblies and talent shows and school plays, and I wore my little Roy Rogers outfit. Isn't that adorable? I mean, look at that kid. When I went trick-or-treating, are you kidding me? I came back with 4 and 5 bags of candy. I was a rock star. I was 11 years old when I put on a magic show for the neighborhood, charged 10 cents a piece for those kids. What a sweet gig that was. Almost set myself on fire, but that's another story. By the time I was in college, I was studying to be an opera singer. Oh, baby. And I was ready. My coach was, he was awesome. He was wonderful. He was contributive. Inspiring. 4 years I worked with this guy. I found that I had a real desire to give back, to invest in other people's lives, to help them navigate their course, to help them reinvent, help them discover ways that they could discover who they are, what they're worth, and why they're here. But I went off to graduate school on my own, eager to learn all the skills that I needed in order to be a family counselor and an educator. And so I developed a keen understanding of personality development, those elements that compose us, shape us, the social dynamics. It was cool. 4 years studying for my doctorate. And it was all going along quite nicely. During that time, I developed what I call a self-realization construct. Now, we've all heard about actualization, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization, right? Well, this is self-realization. Okay? Cynic has his golden circle. I have multicolors, all right? So if you just bear with me. What you're seeing is that what we do, this outer appearance, is just that. It's fluid, its function is at the most temporal. You know, it's drawing from those things that we've discovered about ourselves, and we're using the talents and the skills and all that we know to do that, whatever that is, or those things might be. Well, that all sounded really cool, except I began to discover that those things that I was doing were being used to tell me more about why I'm here and what I'm worth and really who I am. See, we get it turned around. So now your identity and your value and your life's purpose is all based in your performance. We're pulling from all of that we do to find this person that we really are. We just haven't met him yet. So here I was, 6 months away from completing my PhD. I was ready to defend my dissertation. My major professor was killed. The only person in the department willing to chair the committee didn't like me and didn't like the research I'd been doing for the last 2.5 years and said, "I'm sorry, you're going to have to start over." Well, you talk about some white water, my friend. So the very thing that I had done in giving up this career in music, coming 3,000 miles to study, to be this other professional, now I'm faced with a pretty serious obstacle, a setback. And I had a choice to make. See, I had met the woman who I wanted to marry. I wanted to spend my life with her. I wanted to start a family. I needed to get to work. She'd been waiting 4 years. Yeah. So I chose to reinvent myself. See, what I found is that when that was taken away from me was no longer an option, it forced me to dig a little deeper and figure out, okay, well, what's my real purpose? Well, by that time, my real purpose had changed, and I'd been changed with it. I found that what I really wanted to do was to care for my wife and my family. So I took a part-time job as a radio disc jockey on Saturday mornings. I was back entertaining people. Went to some core skills there. And during that next 9.5 years, I went from being a DJ to being the general manager. Who knew? By this time, I had a wife, 2 kids, 1 on the way. Awesome. Great. Right up until the time that the company I was working for fell on bad times and my paycheck wouldn't cash anymore. We just bought a house. I couldn't provide for my family. I was out of work for 6 months. And all of a sudden, there went the whole thing that I'd built around providing for my family, my purpose in life, right? So what good am I? What am I really worth? During that time, the people who really knew me well, who connected with me, not because of what I did, not because I had some noble purpose, but because they knew me, they stuck with me. That woman that I married, she's at home right now. You know what she's doing? She's praying for me that I don't screw up. How am I doing, honey? Yeah. Thank you. A friend of mine called and said, hey, man, I didn't know I'd get sound effects with this. Do I have to pay for that? No, okay. It's awesome. Yeah. It was my friend who was running the local cable company, advertising sales, wanting me to come work for him, selling TV advertising on the local cable network. Okay. Pay was good. I'm back in business. Boom, the lights come on. It's like Star Trek. We have warp engines. Great. Crazy. So I went to work for the cable company, and I did very well. In fact, I brought with me all that I had learned along the way, right? And I learned more about corporate environments and TV production, and I really learned better how to care for my clients, people who needed help, people who themselves were trying to reinvent. Not necessarily themselves, but their businesses, trying to get into that process of branding, right? So all of that happened. And it was good. Right up until the time that the federal government decided to regulate the cable industry. Our company said, well, we're cutting your base pay in half. And now for the bad news. Do you have any questions? So once again, reinvention became a necessity. And I was down to thinking, there's got to be something more about me that can endure even this kind of disappointment. I mean, I worked hard. And again, I was successful. I found that if we begin to look at the very fundamental things about what we believe, about ourselves, our attitudes, our opinions of others, what we hold to be most critical to life itself, what makes us laugh, what makes us cry, those are the most important parts of knowing who we are. And something else happened. Through that same process of reinventing over and over again, I began to find that the thrust was just the opposite of what the world teaches us. That who I am is the foundation for my value. That is your core. That's where your unique place in the world comes from. Unduplicated. And haven't done anything with it yet. You just are. See, that's the whole idea of the seed falling out down into the ground. The outer husk begins to decay away. What happens? It germinates. And its true identity begins to sprout. And it's then that we see, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. This is a peach tree. Who knew? This is an olive tree. Wow. So I then took that opportunity to say, here's what I'm really worth. Here's my real purpose in life. And now I want to find those things that I can do to better express it. Wow. A friend of mine called. He said, I understand you just lost your job with the cable company. Yeah. No sound effects? Okay. And he said, well, how'd you like to come work for me? So I did. I was his marketing director for 3 years. We did great, and that was all good. By this time, I had 4 kids and a bigger mortgage, and it was all good until he sold the company. And the new owner said, sorry, I don't need your help. But my friend came to me. These are the people that stay close to you in your boat. Gave me $10,000 cash and said, you need to go do for other people what you've done for me here. So I did. And that company continues to thrive today. And over the last 20 years, yes, we have continued to reinvent ourselves, our company, and what it is that we bring to the world. We know who we are. And yes, I know what I'm worth. And I know why I'm here. So in fact, reinvention, it's an ongoing process. It's not a one-time event. Reinvention is necessary. Necessity, I would say to you, is the mother of invention. And reinvention is the necessity of life's journey. I'll see you on the river.